Welcome everybody to the launch webinar of the new European Lighting Forum. The European Lighting Forum is a new forum which aims to bring together members of the lighting value chain and experts from the built environment. This is a new place to share ideas, experiences on our challenges and what we see are challenges and opportunities. But before we tell you more about the new platform and we dig into the topic of the day, let me go through the housekeeping rules and the agenda. So for today's agenda, the topic, very timely, is about renovating Europe's building. You know about the EU renovation wave, the recent adoption of the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive as well. So that will be the focus of the day. We'll start with a presentation from Peter Forns from the Zoomtober group to speak about the role of lighting in renovation. And then we'll have a series of presentations about the challenges and opportunities of renovation with Carla Wilkins from the IALD, Thanos Balafoutis from the Hellenic Open University, and Joao Gonçalves from Renovating Europe, and he's also in charge of Shape EU. Let's go to the housekeeping rules. So, under no circumstances, of course, participants should exchange information on any competitive parameters. The webcams and the microphones will be turned off, with the exception of the speakers. This is to allow for the good functioning of the webinar. If you have any questions, please make sure to post them in the Q&R, a little section that you can see at the top of your screen. And whoever is moderating from the Lighting Europe Secretariat will make sure to raise it with the speakers. Please make sure that your name and surname are clearly shown, and please note that the webinar will be recorded. You will have access to the slides and the recording of the webinar. It will be sent to the participants and will be on our website. And if you have any feedback to this event, we will share an evaluation survey at the end of the webinar. You will see that as a follow-up. Before we start and dig into the topic, I hand over to Elena Scaroni, who is the Secretary General of Lighting Europe, for some words from her side.
Thanks a lot, Marion. I'm really excited about this launch of the European Lighting Forum, a new adventure of Lighting Europe. So first of all, what is Lighting Europe? Lighting Europe is the European trade association representing the lighting manufacturing industry. We are the only one association representing indeed the lighting manufacturing industry at European level. We have 31 members and we represent more than 1,000 companies. We can go to the next slide, and in the next slide you will have a chance to see all our members. So from one side you see on the left side is the association. So most of members of Lighting Europe are national associations that they represent, of course, companies present at national level. You may see the logos of a national association that are active in your country. And then on the right side, we have companies who are direct members of Lighting Europe. We represent small, medium, and large companies. And thanks to the participation of all our associations, we mainly represent indeed small and medium companies. Now we can go to the next one, where we will have a look at our new strategy. Lighting Europe just adopted a new strategy towards 2030. And this is a triangle that you have maybe seen on social media. There are 4 key new objectives, and the first and the most important one is lighting comes first mindset. What do we mean with that? We mean that we would like to see in 2030 that finally the value of lighting, the benefits of lighting are acknowledged, recognized all along the value chain and within all stakeholders that are around lighting indeed. So what do we mean in practice? We mean that we would like to make sure that lighting is not the last item when a new construction or renovation project is set, but one of the first indeed. And this cannot happen without the support of course, the whole value chain in a very large meaning. So it's not only the lighting designer, the specifiers, but also the building owners. Is about the authorities, the local authorities, the cities, and all the other actors we meet in our everyday life. So the European Lighting Forum is indeed the concretization of this strategy. We have created a place where we can meet, discuss together, and align on common aspirations in line with what are the policy goals of policymakers in Europe at European level. And yeah, we have to take into account also aspirations of policymakers at national level. We will have a look at that as well, of course. When it comes to the fair marketplace, this is very much in line with our traditional, let's say, mandate and the mission of Lighting Europe. We are working to have good rules, simple rules that are enforced. And so we keep working in this direction. We have 2 working groups working active in this field indeed. And so we keep with even more energy than before. Global thought and technical leader. This is the key objective that reminds us that our ambition is to be a proactive leader. So to make happen, lighting comes first. So to change the mindset, we have to proactively engage. We have to engage in discussions, in policy debate, in standardizations, and we have to work on a succession plan to make sure that we have all the skills that this industry needs over time. And the final one, engaged marketplace, is the dimension of the network. Indeed, we cannot make it on our own. We need all our partners, and we need to involve all lighting players as well. The smallest, in particular, we need to involve more small companies. We need to involve small national associations, and we also need to involve our CEOs. CEOs events are being organized now within Lighting Europe to make sure that our CEOs, our business leaders, have a say and can make recommendations to our executive board. Voila, with that, I concluded my overview of Lighting Europe.
Thank you very much, Elena. Let's then start with the first session of the day. And for this, we welcome Peter Forens, who is the head of strategic lighting application at Thorn Lighting and also involved at Lighting Europe. A short presentation about Peter. Peter has a degree in electrical and electronic engineering. He joined Thorn Lighting in 1985. He's worked on electronics R&D, electronics manufacturing. He developed scheme design software used worldwide and also software to manage photometric data, for instance. Peter has worked in applications practice, applications research, and he's now working for the Zumtobel Group R&D department. Peter is involved in standardization work. He's heavily involved as well in the Lighting Industry Association in the UK, and he's also the chair of our Value of Lighting Working Group at Lighting Europe. Peter, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm going to talk about the role of lighting in renovation. And effectively, we have a problem. If we look at where we should be on building renovation and where we are on building renovation, we are nowhere close. So we have an urgent climate emergency. We need to do a lot of work to achieve our goals, and we're not really doing it. If you look at that map, effectively the 2 countries that were really making a difference were Spain and Italy, and even then it was quite a small difference. And to take a national example, and this is the UK, you can see that the UK is significantly behind. We need to reduce energy consumption by 59%, and effectively 97% fall short of the UK Green Building Council's targets for 2050. So we have a major problem throughout Europe and actually globally. So how does that relate to lighting? Well, if we look at sort of lighting, it uses about 2% of all the world's primary energy resources. So all of the electricity that's generated, about 2% goes on lighting. That's enormous. It creates about 5% of the global CO2, and less than half is converted to higher energy efficiency light sources. So electric lighting has a major impact on energy and the environment, but actually also on everyday life and the global economy. We need lighting. So if we look at how we can move towards achieving our global goals, this was produced by, name's gone, but this was produced effectively. It shows the CO2 that you can effectively offset. And if it's below the line, you can offset CO2, but you will make a gain. It will cost you, you will make a profit. If it's above the line, you can offset CO2, but it will cost you money. So we can do solar, we can do wind, but actually they have quite a high cost to them. The biggest gain with the biggest profit, so you actually make money out of it, is insulating all our buildings. So renovation. The second one is fuel efficient commercial buildings. The third one is lighting. Lighting, we can make big savings quite easily, and we will make money by doing it. And if you look at fuel efficient vehicles, they're also in there. So fuel efficient commercial vehicles and fuel efficient vehicles are in there. This is important. And the reason it's important is they've done a lot of calculations and they've discovered that if everybody suddenly got rid of their petrol car and bought an electric car, our electric supply would die. The electric supply is based on the fact it has a little bit of excess, so it can cope with a sudden surge in demand, but not a lot of excess. So we can't just say convert everyone to electric cars. We have to do something. We either have to increase the energy supply or we have to decrease the usage. So if you go back here, one of the really good ways of decreasing usage of energy is lighting systems. So we have, if you convert it to LED, you would actually be able to power about 55 million electric vehicles for a year. That's significant. It's the sort of thing we have to do. None of these solutions exist in isolation. And it's not just moving to LED, it's actually controlling our lighting better. There are lots and lots of examples where lighting is left on even though people aren't there. And let's be honest, buildings don't get scared of the dark. They don't need the lighting. So if we actually just put in occupancy control, on average, we would save about 24% of our electricity. If we put in daylight control, that would go to 28%. These aren't quite additive because if your lights are turned off, you won't save daylight, but put both of them together and you're probably about 40% saving. If you put in task lighting, so actually your light, what you're doing, when we do lighting design, we tend to say the worst case task in this space requires 500 lux. If you're doing something that only requires 300 lux, you've still got 500 lux. Why? You can turn the lighting down. And we can do task scene settings so people can control the lighting. If people can control the lighting, quite frequently they turn it down or they turn it off. So there's big savings from lighting controls, and these are related to the actual application you're using them in. So if you're in an office, different types of lighting controls will make different types of savings compared to if you're in a hotel, for example. So we have to look at the application, look at the lighting needs, and look at the lighting control needs, and bring them all together. And this has actually been recognised by the European Commission now. In the latest Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, they've said automatic lighting controls shall be suitably zoned and capable of occupancy detection, and they will be there. So lighting controls are being recognised as a way of saving energy. And not only do they save energy, but they preserve lighting quality, because you can save energy by turning the lights out, but then you can't do anything. You can save energy by giving bad lighting, which keeps people safe, but they won't be productive because they don't like being there. Another thing in the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive is that the Smart Readiness Indicator will become mandatory for non-residential buildings with air conditioning and ventilation over 290 kilowatts. Now, this is a step beyond energy efficiency. So it has impact criteria, and one is energy, one is flexibility. At periods of high demand, can I do load shedding within buildings. One is self-generation. Can I generate my own energy? And if I do, can I supply it to the grid? But then we talk about comfort. Do I create nice spaces? Convenience. Can I make them work how I want them to work? Health. Are they good for me? So all of a sudden, we're not just talking energy, we're accepting that there is wider implications. If you're in an energy efficient building that makes you feel unwell, there is a cost because you end up going to your doctor or your hospital or whatever. And then we have technical follow-up. Can we actually maintain it and keep it working? And information to occupants, does it tell me what I need to know? So all of these things are going on. And for lighting services, it talks about occupancy control, mood and time-based control. So can I control it to work with me as opposed to work with what it thinks it should be doing at that time? And actually daylight levels. So it's got those lighting controls in that we've already talked about. But unfortunately, if you actually look at the share of lighting controls, it's small. In the European Union, well, in Europe, because it includes the UK, Norway and Switzerland, 7.5% of lighting has lighting controls. And unfortunately, that's actually quite good compared to the rest of the world, and it's appalling. We should be much better at lighting controls. And then if you look at renovation and you look at the benefits, you can do a light renovation. A light renovation, as you can see on the left-hand side, it's actually got a very small initial cost. But because it has a small initial cost, it actually isn't that energy efficient. And you can see that light blue line rises quite quickly. And you reach a point after 10 years where you've got to do something significant. You do a major refurbishment or you do a new build, you get a big, massive leap, and then you start again. If you look at a major refurbishment, you can see how much energy it's saving and how much CO2 it's saving. It's because it's way below that blue line. And actually, it's not far off the green line, the new build line. The assumption that was made in this study is after 30 years for a major refurbishment, you will knock the building down and you will build a new building. So that's why in sort of 2055-ish, you have that massive step. But that's not the only option. You could do another major refurbishment. You could do a light refurbishment. Or, yes, if you do a new build with market-leading technology, you will save vast amounts of CO2. So we have these options. Refurbishment can make a difference, but actually light refurbishment is not the best option. But when we do these things, we have to think about people. Light is not just about vision, it's about how it makes you feel. So you can see we have 4 examples of an office, all lit slightly differently, but actually you could do one lighting system that could give you all these ideas. And it would then change the lighting depending on the time of year, the time of day, what was happening, how people were feeling. It gives you that personal control to create the space that you need to be productive and to promote your well-being. So we have the quality of light that's depending on lots and lots of things. In principle, it looks complicated. In practice, we all understand what we like. If you look at your house and your domestic lighting, you create good lighting with really simple ideas. It doesn't have to be that complicated. So light has an effect on vision, it lets you see. It has an effect on your body because we understand now that we have non-visual effects, call them whatever you wish. It will affect your alertness, your performance, how your sleep-wake cycle works, how your health is, and it will affect your emotion. So if you see something that looks really nice, you know you're seeing something good. And each application has its own needs. So if you look at the lighting standards will tell you for different applications what you should be considering. And always remember, I spend a lot of time on lighting standards. They are a starting point. If you take the lighting standards and then you add lighting design, you will get something special. If you take the lighting standards and just do some numbers, you'll get something that's okay, but it won't be special. And we need the right light at the right place at the right time. When we wake up, we want a different light to when we're concentrating, to when we're relaxing, to when we're sleeping again. So lighting is important, lighting has to be part of the design of the building from the start, not at the end. So yes, lighting should come first. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter, for this very, very interesting presentation, also full of data, which is always very nice to learn about. Let me have a look at the Q&A section to see if we have questions. I don't see any yet. Let's just wait a little bit. I remind participants, if you have questions, also the other speakers, by the way, feel free to drop a question there. But if I don't see anything popping up, I would suggest, because I think people are still absorbing. I see someone raising a hand. If you have a question, you need to put it in the Q&A section, please.
You know, turned up.
And if it's a bad question, Bob, I will get my revenge at a later date.
I see a comment in the chat, Peter, about missing the factor lux.
Missing the factor lux?
Yes, this is what I see in the chat. But it's not from Bob.
Okay. I mean, one of the problems with energy efficiency is we always talk about watts per square meter, or we talk about lumens per watt. We always miss out the fact that if you just do it on energy, then you could end up wasting energy. If you consider I could have a high lumens per watt, but poor productivity, then actually I'm wasting energy. If I have a good lumens per watt and high productivity, I'm really making use of that energy that I'm using. So as a point, we have to start rethinking our units and how we measure efficiency. Efficiency is not just energy used, it's what we do with that energy. Can we be productive? Can we make good spaces? Hopefully that's what you mean, but if not, put something else in the chat.
Thank you, Peter. Another question. How do we guard light quality without having a good metric for it? Aiming for high lumen per watt is much easier than quality is forgotten. Sorry.
I totally agree. High lumens per watt is quite easy to do. Producing good spaces is a bit harder, and you have to think about it. And I'm sure our presenter from the IALD will appreciate and talk about this. But actually designing lighting for people is harder. And there is no one metric. And one of the problems is we tend to talk about it in negative terms. So good lighting is flicker free, so it doesn't flicker. Good lighting is glare free, so it doesn't have glare. We very rarely talk about the things that it should have, like the contrasts and the interest. And we don't talk about those things. So you've got to look at it from a slightly different viewpoint. Does it show the colours really well? Have I modelled the space so that there's differences? We're used to the idea that we do uniformity and big uniform spaces. We shouldn't be doing that. We should be doing spaces that are interesting, that attract your view, that make you feel good there, and that you can change. So as you go through the day and you're feeling different, you can change it to match how you feel. So yeah, lighting quality is hard to do, or at least it's harder, but to a point we have to start doing it. Lazy design is no excuse.
Thank you, Peter. I see a comment actually from Bob in the chat. He's actually mentioning that your presentation was brilliant and adding a source to one of the graphs you presented, so everybody can see that.
It was McKinsey, I remember now.
Thank you. So yes, I see people are questioning about the chat. Yes, if you have a question, please draft it in the Q&A section with the little icon you see at the top of the screen. Is there any last question for Peter? You can also think about it and raise it during the second session, of course. Let me see. Just adding, so the person that had a comment about the lux at the beginning adds that for the physical and mental health, vision, body, we need a certain minimum of lux. Daylight is the best. So how can we use the best?
I will totally agree that daylight is the best. And obviously daylight, at the minute where I am, there is a little bit of blue sky, but it's only just appeared. Until that daylight has been awful. So We have to marry electric light and daylight to produce the best space. And yes, you have to look at the non-visual effects, so the effects on your health and your well-being and your circadian rhythms. We probably have to think beyond looks, or at least we have to think beyond looks on the desk. We have to start thinking about what's happening at the eye, what is the light spectrum, when are we receiving the light, because we're supposed to get high light in the morning, which is then the bit that wakes us up. So there's all these things. And we also get the interesting questions such as, if you're in the middle of winter and it's raining outside and it's horrible, should you be reflecting the outside environment in, or should you be giving yourself a good environment? But equally, you have seasonal rhythms within your body, not just daily rhythms. So how far can you go in any one direction? You shouldn't really give everyone a permanent summer. So we have all these questions that we're still learning the answers to, but they're all very important, and we have to take them into account to the best of our knowledge. And as we learn, we get better.
Thank you very much, Peter. And thank you again for this very interesting presentation. Stay with us. You might still get questions afterwards. And if you have questions for our next speakers, of course, you're more than welcome. Then I will hand the floor to my colleague Simon, who will moderate the second session.
Thank you very much, Marion. I think this first session was already very interesting. But now I am very, very happy to introduce to you our group of speakers for our meeting today. So let me introduce you them in order of appearance today. So first I'm introducing to you Carla Wilkins, who's joining us today from Berlin. She has over 30 years of professional experience as an independent architectural lighting designer. She was one of the founding partners of Lichtvision, where she continues working to expand the traditional boundaries of lighting design to encompass all manners of visual experience. In her career, she worked on a vast array of German as well as international projects, including master planning, high-rise buildings, public memorials, art installations, as well as commercial and residential architecture in large scales. She has been published widely, and she also frequently lectures on lighting design as well as other related topics. She has a background in architecture, and she is a board member of the International Lighting Designers Association. She's also a member of the Werkbund Berlin and the board member of lighting companies who advise the EU-funded project Enlighten Me. Our second speaker for the day is Thanos Balafoutis. He is an architect as well as a lighting designer. He holds a degree in lighting design as well as a master's degree as well as a PhD in architectural lighting. His research interests cover all aspects of light, with a particular emphasis on issues related to architectural lighting as well as light art. With a special emphasis on the field of historic buildings, cultural heritage, and architectural digitization. He's seemingly a man with amazing time management, because he's not only the co-founder of Kramer Architects, which is an award-winning architectural firm that also provides architectural lighting design, but he's also a founding member of the Hellenic Lighting Association, a member of Europeana, the Technical Chamber of Greece, the Pan-Hellenic Union of Architects, the International Association of Designers, as well as the International Design Club. And he's also involved in scenography and lighting design in artistic productions and theatrical plays. And then last but certainly not least, I'm introducing to you João Gonçalves. He coordinates the innovation area for Housing Europe, aiming to drive creativity and fostering new ideas for the development of new housing solutions, services, or business models to tackle the challenges of public, social, and cooperative housing providers, namely with strategic partnerships with its own members, but as well as in cooperation with industry, academia, or government stakeholders. He's an urban planner by training, with more than 15 years of innovation experience, working for a wide variety of employers, such as a university, consultancy, or a business association. So without further ado, Carla, please take the floor.
Thank you very much. I just share my screen. Hopefully it works. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about challenges of lighting and renovations in buildings. And I keep that small. Good lighting doesn't just happen, it's designed. And I learned from Peter, light doesn't have to be complicated. True, but it still needs a lot of knowledge and a sensible approach to achieve the excellence. To give you a little bit an introduction, the International Association of Lighting Designers, the ILD, was founded over 50 years ago and today is a leading international association dedicated to professional lighting designers with more than 1,500 professional lighting design members around the world. The vision is really to create a better world through excellence in lighting design, to cultivate the universal knowledge and appreciation of the power of light in human life. The topic today is really the challenge of lighting renovations in buildings. You can call it refurbishment, you can call it renovation replacement. So in the traditional way, it was more changing the light bulb. We had a very robust light fitting, or you had the alternative to do a reinstallation of, or do a complete new design of the installation. This is like an example that this building, UK house, was completely gutted. So the interior is completely new. We have the old facade. There is a new lighting design, and it should have the modern approach, a luminous sky, and that the fitting itself is not the most important thing. It's about space and architecture. Another example is the Beethoven House in Bonn, which is a small museum, and you have the challenge in renovation if you are starting to work in protected or heritage buildings, then once in a sudden you can't touch the ceiling, you can't touch the floor. So what are you doing? So you have to rethink completely new. And sometimes, as we discussed before, it's not only about uniformity, it is like bringing a rhythm to the space and do it appropriate to the function of the building and create, like here, as it is the private house of Beethoven, a more residential atmosphere than a functional atmosphere. Another view, this is also the impact of daylight. This is a project we have done together with Holzer Kobler Architekten, and it is about the screen, which allows still the connection to the outside, but also protect the interior for too much or the bad influence of the sunlight. Exterior lighting, enhancing the facades. This is the Audrey House in London. It's not like flooding the facade, but then at the end, what we see in this picture, which is like the full view on the full facade, once in a sudden, this is the reality. It is more like a narrow street, and we have to consider not only the front view, but also the impact of the viewpoint of the observer and how we integrate the lighting very discreet and reduce glare as best as possible and to make it a holistic design. Also, in these cases with the minimized LED fittings, we are always challenging the location of drivers and the technical devices. So what is perfect at the LED fitting at all is also a disadvantage because we have to rethink now far more about cabling and where can we place these technical devices in a place where maintenance is possible. So the tradition of changing the light bulb or complete installation are transformed also in changing the LED module. A big topic nowadays is really recycle, reuse, and I think it is like giving the fittings a second life, which we were used in former times because we only changed the light bulb. So in a way, we have to go back and have that thinking that we change the LED and we can recycle, reuse also the fitting itself. Motivation for us all, and Peter mentioned, are the environmental resources, and we have to be very careful that we take care of our world. So this is an example of a shopping mall, quite a placative recycle, reuse of a bike in a shopping mall, which guides you to the biking stands. But at the end, in this shopping mall, it was really that the old fittings were, which had metal halide, were reused with LED fittings. So the housing was still the same. We used the same fitting. And it was a real reuse of the old installation. Bringing some accents to it and really work with what was on site already done. A motivation also is heritage, and the heritage in recycling, this is the Mathematisch-Physikalischer Salon. This is a project from 2013, so this is more than 10 years ago. And the basic idea was to have those two layers where we have one, the tremendous chandeliers, which are impressive and bringing the rhythm, but also bringing the functional elements with the LED stripes on the tracks to do the highlight of the fittings. The balance, and as Peter already mentioned, lighting control allows different settings in daytime or evening hours to adjust the correct setting and appearance of and experience of the space. This is also a reuse because this fitting you see in the center is a classic setting from the 50s from the GDR. So this was restored, cleaned up, and installed with new light bulbs. So it is bringing the old element, not ignoring the history, and implementing it into an overall scheme. Another picture of the long hall. In daylight, you have in the museum, you have that sometimes the daylight is a harm than a benefit. So here it was like a 50 lux space. So we were changing depending in which area we were. The screen were more dense and allowed the 50 lux scenario. The monument protection is the big question in that one nowadays, and if you're working with an icon, it is the luminaire fitting as interior element, but also the lighting design from the former times to be under monument protection too. So I think this is something what we are facing at the moment with the Staatsbibliothek at the Potsdamer Straße in Berlin, which is a very important icon for Berlin. And this has not only the protection of the interior and the facade and the light fittings, but it's also one of the goals to have the protection of the light design Theo von Malotki has done with Hans Sharoun in the end of the 60s. So this is a completely new challenge we also have to face nowadays. It has this impressive area where you can read and study the books, and the goal is also to make with the new technology to reduce the watt per square meters and provide a holistic approach. This is an ongoing project, but I think it will be really the one recycle, reuse to its best. There's a picture of it. So changing the LED module means you have to think about which is the platform, which is the durability, the reusability, the upgradability, and repairability of that product. The technical data, of course, the electrical devices. So we are talking about controls, and these are digital elements. So we have to consider, because we are in the digital world and we learn software has a lifetime cycle. Can we allow the upgradability of those electrical digital devices on the long run? We see that with computers, with our mobile phones. So I think that will be a challenge to implement the best working controls as possible. So the luminaire housing is a classic recycle reuse opportunity. So we can implement a second life for the fittings, which means to the manufacturer, it has not only the idea that it is made for only 5 or 10 years. We have to go back to the thinking that the luminaire housing is suitable for more than 20, might be even 30 years. So these are completely different, of going back to the old approach of changing just the light bulb. And our motivation, in sometimes it's heritage, but it is for sure environmental resources and circular economy, our carbon and environmental footprint, and the recycled content. So it has to be continued, recycle, reuse, and of course, responsible lighting design. And we try to use our design intelligence with that. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Carla. This was very, very insightful. So before we really go into the Q&A section, please, we would like to hear from the other speakers as well. So Thanos, please take it away.
Hello. One moment. Tell me if you can see my presentation.
Yes, we can.
So hello, my name is Thanos Balafoutis. I'm an architect and lighting designer, but also I'm a postdoctoral researcher at Hellenic Open University in Greece. There where we have the only master degree in lighting design in Greece, and plus a state-of-the-art lighting design laboratory. So this is research conducted in collaboration with professors Mr. Stelios Zerefos and Professor Labros Doulos. Nowadays, it is considered that lighting the facades of buildings, especially historic and heritage buildings, is a crucial and essential intervention in promoting the building as a landmark. This is a necessary part of any building restoration, since it can potentially, in terms of quality, improve the environment in which it is located, or the surrounding area. It is a tool for many different purposes, including creating a sense of safety and protection, promoting the appearance of a building, providing amusement via the planning of events, and most importantly, disconnecting from the daily circle of natural light. Since artificial lighting is so flexible in its application and outcomes, new challenges and concerns start to arise. However, apart from luminous performance, the improvement of the way it's done and the impact on relation to various factors such as economic, psychological, social factors that are respectively related to energy efficiency, light pollution, human well-being, and aesthetics. Human well-being and aesthetics are the two aspects that are affected by the emotions that might occur while observing the effect of lighting on any given environment. Historical building facade illumination is affected by two different types of factors. Is the operation factors that are related to the lighting equipment's quality and operating, whereas emotion factors which alter the user evaluation and deals with the observer's emotions. And it might be the factor that is most challenging to identify. 100 lighting specialists from 19 different nations were asked to participate in our survey for this research. After observing a few lighting design outcomes for different elements of historic building facades in digital type, they gave their thoughts and they evaluated the outcomes of lighting. In addition to sharing their thoughts on a range of topics, including lighting distribution, intensity, useful illumination, and also light pollution, lighting specialists were asked to share their emotions regarding its outcome. The principal emotions that emerged from the research so that a synthesis of these results can be made were those of awe, boredom, tension, tranquility, and happiness. What emerges from the evaluations is the verification that the lighting intensity, depending on its amount, alters emotions. It is found that low light intensities cause boredom in 30 to 38%, as you can see here, while very low intensities shoot up to 59%. The highest percentage of the emotion of happiness was selected in lighting that emphasized one element more than the other, creating a tranquility in the whole facade. In the images where the specialist evaluated the intensity as moderate, the emotion of tranquility is the one chosen most at 37 to 40%. As the intensity of the lighting increases, according to the evaluators, the emotion of tension also increases, and starting at 44% and reaching 61%. In these images, you can see, I think this increase in lighting intensity is clear and obvious. The emotion of awe is often found in lighting upwards, the vertical elements, such as column or pilasters. Here, specialist opinions on the aesthetic of the final results were found to be in agreement, which makes sense. Moreover, a particular finding is that when two spots illuminating upwards from the base of a column evoke awe, perhaps because they highlight the third dimension of the body of the facade and the capitals. However, when we only have one spot in the same column, the impression appears to be a little flatter, which causes boredom. By collecting these perspectives, the outcomes from every emotion were grouped together and new lighting layouts were simulated across the entire facade. As a result, some interesting conclusions about the influence of illumination on this domain were reached. Among the most important conclusions were that the feeling of awe is influenced by the lighting's layering of tonality, while boredom was possibly chosen due to the low brightness of architectural elements and consequently the whole view. In the case of tension, there are strong variations in the concentration of light in the elements, while the emotion of tranquility is quite similar to that of the awe, with the only difference being found in the greater visual uniformity. In conclusion, we found that there is a verification of the preference for moderated intensities. Focused lighting causes tension. The diversion of lighting layers causes awe. And in the end, the homogeneous lighting creates tranquility. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Danos. I think this was also very, very interesting. And now let's already come to our last presentation for the day. João, please, the floor is yours.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Just gonna upload the presentation. If you can already see it. Yeah?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So again, good morning, everybody. My name is João Gonçalves. I come from Renovating Europe. I will start by presenting my organization. Probably most of you won't be familiar with this. So we are basically a network across Europe. We even have some members outside of the strict European sphere. We represent about 43,000 local housing organizations in 25 countries, and they themselves, they own or they manage about 25 million homes. We're also an important player as far as the renovation wave is concerned. So we are refurbishing about 200,000 dwellings per year, which corresponds to about 40 billion euros. And these numbers are before COVID time. Our main goal of our network is obviously to provide decent and affordable housing for all. So the difference between this housing and the market, the real estate market, is that usually there is some kind of public or social, mostly owned by public organizations as well, and or cooperative housing that is able to provide housing for the people that can't afford that dwelling at the rate of the market. So there is always some kind of intermediary contrary to the real estate market. I would also like to convey how different these notions are across Europe. So I brought two examples so that you can understand that we are not talking about an homogeneous sector, it's quite heterogeneous. I brought two examples, one from Austria and one from France. As you can see in the small print there, they represent a quite significant part of the housing in each of these countries. In Austria, it's almost a quarter of the total amount of available housing in the whole country. But they have a different model. They have municipal public companies. Some of them even own a few 100,000 homes. So these are basically public owned by municipalities, for example. And they have another model, which is cost rents. They have these corporations who provide a limited profit housing association. So they rent these houses at the price of the cost that they were built. It's a really significant sector there in Austria. In France, in contrast, we have big corporations that provide what we understand as social housing. So you see those huge buildings, mainly outside of the main cities. These are managed by what they call HLM companies, which are public or even private entities, but they have this public goal to offer affordable housing for the people who need it, for the families who need it. And this is these differences are also happening in other countries across Europe, even with the bigger contrasts. So it's a quite heterogeneous market. But there is, of course, quite a number of similarities between all of these different countries. Most of us, we deal with three principles. So we are talking about affordable housing, obviously. And when we are talking about affordable housing, we obviously have to have low costs so that we can offer a price that is able to accommodate even the tiniest budgets. We also need to have enough homes to provide for the needs of the families across Europe. And as you've been hearing throughout the news, we have been living for the past decades, actually, but even with more concern in the last years, a crisis of affordability, and we don't have enough homes to accommodate all the needs. I have there a few charts just to show that what is driving this crisis of housing. And the third pillar, obviously, is one that is on top of all these, the two other pillars, which is the sustainability. So we also have to provide homes that are energy efficient, or to renovate homes to the required level of standard of energy efficiency. Obviously, the balance between these three pillars is increasingly hard to reach, and this is one of the reasons why the innovation in our sector has been gaining ground of late. Just a few numbers, and I guess you already know this, but most of our building stock, and I'm talking just about the public and social housing sector, is inefficient. So we have a huge drive to renovate that stock. Also quite significant in our sector is that a lot of Europeans are unable to pay the energy bills. So we have come to this figure of 34 million Europeans that are unable to heat their homes properly. There's also some cooling poverty in the Mediterranean countries. And has already been mentioned, but we have an insufficient rate of energy efficiency. The public, social, and cooperative housing have been leading on the renovation of buildings. We have actually a very ambitious target of 4 million buildings renovated by 2030. We were on a charted course to reach that goal, but COVID and the complications that arose afterwards made this target really difficult to reach. It's still 6 years to go. Let's hope we can recover the ground. In terms of innovation, to reach the very ambitious target of renovation wave in our sector, we have been pursuing a number of innovation strategies. They encompass all kinds of different technologies, including the energy efficiency conservation and smart building technologies, which I guess are more closer to the lighting industry. However, and this is very significant, we have learned from the past. We have had some really inefficient results from a wave of construction from the 50s, 60s, 70s. So we are no longer pursuing individual technologies, but we are actually going for a more integrated approach, which means that we are not only looking for example, insulation materials for the building envelopes, but we are trying to make it part of a renovation package, for example. What does this mean? It means that we are trying to help the actors, and by actors I mean housing providers, the owners, including the municipalities, but also companies, technology providers, service providers, to experiment technologies and to bridge the gap between experimenting and mainstream adoption by these actors. And this is what Housing Europe has been involved in terms of innovation in the last years. So we are really looking forward to solve some of the challenges that we experience in the sector in terms of the three pillars that I mentioned, going for different ways, going beyond the business as usual that is usually undertaken by the housing managers. And I have three examples of projects that we are involved in, quite innovative. The first one, called Meta Building Lab, still ongoing, is basically a single access point to fast track the building envelope technologies and systems from SMEs. Our members are involved by offering testing facilities or pilots. They are involved because they also want to have access to really groundbreaking innovations in the building envelope, so that it improves the energy efficiency, the insulation of their dwellings. So they're actually quite happy to set aside one building or two for all this experimentation to happen. Another project is about a machine learning-based tool that learns from the decision-making processes in construction renovations to reduce energy consumption. So it's basically a number of technologies that altogether constitute a toolkit that housing managers are able to use to take decisions regarding which buildings to renovation, when, and to what extent. Well, as I mentioned before, we're also looking at the renovation methodologies, integrated renovation methodologies, excuse me. Basically, this means that not only we are experimenting with the technologies, but we're also experimenting with co-designing or engaging with the residents that live in a specific building, so mostly social housing tenants. And we are experimenting on the way that we can introduce innovations from a technology point of view, but also letting them have a saying on how that technology is being used and how it's being managed. These are only three examples. We also came to the conclusion that there was a lot of information and even knowledge in the heads of experts that was being lost. It's such a huge sector, so we really wanted to organize all these networks into a knowledge hub. So this is why we proposed the project to the Single Market Program, which you have there. It's the European Affordable Housing Consortium, or SHAPE EU, which has already ended. I was the coordinator of this consortium. And this was basically meant to develop blueprints to be replicated in the renovations. So we were registering or codifying knowledge that could be relevant for any actor in the sector, housing managers, cities, SMEs, to use if they want to plan and implement renovations that go beyond the usual, beyond the business as usual. One thing that came out of this project was a network of experts. So we have a list of areas that we are looking for experts, and we are making them available to mentor anyone who would like to take a similar approach in one of the specific areas. This was quite successful, so we wanted to continue this and maybe focus a bit more on this networking side, and we have already submitted another project for a second phase of this consortium. If it is financed, we should start in October as well. What have we been doing? I unfortunately don't have any example on lighting per se. We don't usually, like I said, engage in one technology specifically. We are looking for kits. So I bring you two examples from our consortium, what we are doing in terms of innovation in the sector. One of them, so anything, just to say that in terms of interesting innovation for us, anything that front loads investments in the like a fixed cost is interesting for us because we can scale it up. And this is what we are doing with the prefabricated external cladding and energy panels. So this is an example from Belgium. This is also an integrated approach. So it's not only we are installing this external cladding, and I can show the next picture so that you can understand. This is a way to renovate in a serialized manner our homes, so we can really reduce the cost per dwelling. And also we are able to achieve really interesting standards of energy efficiency. And this not only includes the cladding, like you see there, but it includes all the technology that are within.
Joao, I'm very sorry to jump into the middle of your presentation here, but we are already a bit over time at this moment, and we would like to make a bit of space for the Q&A. I hope you forgive me for that. But
no worries, I was just about to end. I can go through yeah. I was thinking a bit what are our interests in terms of lighting in this affordable construction renovation in the affordable sector. And yeah, we came across some ideas, obviously energy efficiency, automated lighting solutions that you already mentioned. Also, we're quite interested in machine learning tools, so some technology that can learn and optimize energy consumption patterns from our residents. Also, the ability to simulate the energy consumption before we actually perform any kind of renovation. And I would also like to mention that last item over there, that in the current context, we are looking for integrated solutions and not so much individual markets. So it's really useful for us if you can partner with other players in the industry, but even also social innovation experts, so that you can come up of ways that, you know, to deliver the solutions that are less work for the housing managers. And this was the gist of my presentation. Thanks a lot for the invitation. Looking forward for any question.
Thank you so much, Joao. I think this whole section of the whole session of hearing the different perspective and hearing from all our speakers was very interesting. So maybe let's kick it off with a few of the questions that we received. So if I may start, we received quite a few questions on the issue of remanufacturing or retrofitting, especially considering some of the challenges. So maybe to you, Carla, where do you personally see some of the challenges, but also we received some comments regarding how does remanufacturing work as technology advances? So where, for instance, can there be made space for the reflector or the lens in an old fitting? How is the issue of heat dissipation from the LED addressed? But also, is there a necessity for recertification for regarding CE requirements in the retrofit systems?
So if I can answer all these questions in 2 minutes, I think I'm far in the future. I think it's a spaceship. Yes, there have to be new certifications. Yes, I think so. As a lighting designer, we should have a very intense look about what is the light distribution, what is the light quality we want to have, what kind of lens can we implement, other new technologies, is there a space? Yes, it is true that heat management is a critical component, and can we bring the driver or electrical devices all into the fitting in the given space? These are serious topics. I think we evaluate have to reevaluate ourselves and have to reset our mindset in that one. It's not light is easy, but not complicated. I think it should look not complicated at the end of the day, but it needs a lot of thought, and it needs a partnership of the lighting designers with the industry. And I think this is not like a single thought of someone. It's really all about collaboration with the industry of the lighting designers. I hope this answers the question.
I think it was quite a complex question, so thank you very much for for this answer. Maybe a different going into a different direction, but for facade lighting, do you recommend light from the bottom or the top, and why so? Maybe you also learned a bit something from the study that Thanos presented today.
Was it to me?
Yes, I think.
Or may I answer?
I mean, I'm happy to hear both of your opinions. I think
it was for Thanos, I think.
Okay, I answer. It's not a problem. Actually, there is not a certain recommendation. Always it depends on the typology, the architectural typology of the facade, plus the environment where the building is. There are pros and drawbacks in both cases. For example, uplighting impresses as it creates a majestic view of the building, of the facade. But we might have a huge percent of light pollution levels. On the other hand, downlighting makes the building look shorter as a final image. And also we have to take into consideration the factor of the glare. But there we have for sure lower levels of light pollution. So always it depends in the architectural typology of the facade.
Great. Thank you so much. I hope that answered some of the questions. Another question also concerning your research, Thanos. Is it possible to find your research online?
At the moment, we are creating a new website where it will called Lighting Historical Buildings, but it's not yet ready. I think from September it will be ready, and we will put inside all the history that it can be linked with lighting design and historical buildings. And also we are researching lighting conditions from the antiquity till the industrial era. But at the moment, you can follow me on ResearchGate to see my latest papers and research.
Great, thank you so much. Now we've got clarification from our Q&A box that also the question on facade light, Carla, you are also kindly asked to provide your opinion.
So, no easy rule. I think we are all considering the dark sky approach. So this is really important. We have not to think about the beauty of our buildings, but also about the environment. So for that reason, you have to be extremely careful how you place uplighting. I think there are some locations where you can't do the downlighting. There's no way in some terms of with high heritage buildings, but lighting technology allows to reduce the light pollution, and you should be tremendously careful with that. I think Thanos' study really showed it is possible to do that very carefully, and so no clear rule, but if you are doing uplighting, use your design intelligence.
Thank you so much. I am very sorry that we've run a bit over time, so I am unfortunately asked to conclude this Q&A session already, and I would now like to hand the floor back over to our Secretary General, Elena.
Thanks a lot, Simon. Thanks a lot to all our speakers. That was really, really impressive. So many thoughts about this topic. Indeed, we have learned today that this topic of renovation of buildings is extremely complex, and all your thoughts, all your remarks, all your questions are really gold for us. Food for thoughts. We are learning how to better inspire the work we do to make sure that lighting comes first, indeed. And if I have to quickly summarize for those that are still with us, thank you so much for bearing with me. I would like to first start from social, so indeed from Europe housing, where the social aspects of renovation have been tackled, which is indeed a new dimension from our point of view somehow. And we all received this call. Let's say it's an open door for all of us to engage. A new consortium will be in place. Shape EU will start in the autumn. So let's keep in touch. Let's stay tuned so that we can maybe one of you or many of you would like to engage in this adventure, in this consortium. From ILD, what an amazing overview. Carla, you made me dream. So not only you made me dream, you brought the topic of circularity, which is of course key and vital as a topic in Lighting Europe. Indeed, we are not only talking about recycling, reuse, remanufacturing is now becoming a hot topic in Lighting Europe. So indeed, we will take your comments into account to nurture our debate. And from Thanos from the Hellenic University, thanks a lot for your research perspective. So now we understand that there are metrics to measure the feelings aspect of renovating lighting in buildings, in historical buildings. So again, very incredible inspiration for us about the work we do on a better lighting, understanding the impact on well-being, and also to help us advance in our discussion. So thanks a lot to all of you, to our speakers, to all our participants. Stay with us. So the next episodes of the Lighting Forum, the European Lighting Forum, are coming up soon. Next one will be in June, will be dedicated to indoor environmental quality, because yes, it's not only a matter of ventilation, it's also a matter of lighting. So indoor environmental quality goes through lighting as well. It will be reserved to our value chain only, so lighting manufacturing will be from Lighting Europe, and all the others, of course, are more than welcome to join us and get in touch if you want to be invited. We will keep you posted indeed on the next steps. So thanks a lot to all of you. Thank you also Marion and Simon and Peter. Thank you so much, and see you at the next one. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, everybody. Again, just to
Thank you.
follow up on what Elena mentioned, just for you to know, you will receive a survey from our colleague Ilana. We look forward to your feedback. And if you would like to be part of the next session, please make sure that you send an email if you've not indicated it in the registration form. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day and see you next time.
Thank you.